Well, yes, good morning, Nivedna. The situation doesn't look so good in Bangladesh right now. Remember, that's a nation which is our neighbor. Let's take a look at what is the situation on ground. Let's pull up some numbers over here, which will help us analyze the ground situation. Okay, so the protests have been going on for over 2 weeks. That is July 1. That's the date when the protests started. Now 6 people have been killed. So in 18 days, 6 people have been killed so far. That's 3 students have been killed out of these 6 people. Over 400 remain injured. Now, as you rightly mentioned, the protests are not over. They are still going on. So these numbers may unfortunately just go up. Schools and universities have been shut indefinitely. That's a call that has been taken by the University Grants Commission, seeing the situation on the ground. But protesters have also called to shut down hospitals, banks, etc. Then paramilitary riot police have been deployed. Of course, the government has increased surveillance. They are keeping a check on these protesters. So they have deployed paramilitary as well as the riot police in not just Dhaka but several cities. Now let's also see that what exactly is this job quota system and why are these protests that are taking place in Bangladesh. Okay, we have this data over there. Let's take a moment and look at this circle. This is the area which is based on merit. It is less than what I can see is basically a 50% if I divide the circle into 2 parts. What is the major percentage? Let's look at that. This is 30% is children of freedom fighters. The jobs are in government jobs are reserved for children of freedom fighters. These are freedom fighters who fought the 1971 war against Pakistan for Bangladesh. Then 10% jobs are reserved for women. That's the color that we see here. 10% jobs are reserved for backward districts. They have identified some backward districts in the country. So the people who belong to these districts, 10% jobs are reserved for them. Then we have ethnic minorities who take 5%. 1% is for the people with physical disabilities. But only 44%, which is again less than 50% like I was mentioning, are the jobs that is based on merit. Now this is the situation in a country of 170 million people. Out of this, only nearly 32 million people, they are either without education or without jobs. That's a big number. That is a number that should rather concern the authorities. Back to you, Nivedna.
Right, Dipali. In fact, as you draw perspective as to what the quota system is, number one, and of course, you're drawing things into perspective with these important numbers. One would only ask, since this is a protest that's been happening at least for a fortnight now, what are their particular demands?
Right, Nivedna. Let's go through what are these protesters demanding who have been on the ground since, July 1. That's rightly more than a fortnight, as you mentioned. So the first and the foremost demand is to reform the conventional job quota system, which is just the one that we discussed, where 56% of the jobs rather are reserved for other people, and only 44% depends on merit system. Second, merit-based system that is fair to all. So they are demanding that there should be a common merit-based system, just depending on how the person performs in their test, whatever are held. So a merit-based system for everyone that is common for everyone. That is what the protesters are demanding in Bangladesh. Then we have abolished 30% quota for children of freedom fighters. Now this 30% quota, let's take a moment to understand how this came into existence. Now this was introduced by the founding father of Bangladesh, who was Sheikh Hasina's father, who is the current Prime Minister, by the way. This was introduced in 1972 after that war, and hence job was reserved in order to honor those freedom fighters. So certain percentage of jobs, which is 30%, that was reserved for the children of those freedom fighters. In 2018, this was abolished because again protests happened. But recently on June 5 this year, the High Court introduced this job quota again, which is when the protests started after that. Let me also tell you that the top court of Bangladesh, they have put it on hold right now, but protesters are not happy with it. They demand more. They demand a complete scrappage of this job quota. That is this 30% basically is what they are demanding to be scrapped. Then support reservation for minorities and people with disabilities. Like I mentioned, The protesters are against the 30%, which forms a a lion's share of that reservation. But they are okay with with people with minorities and people with disabilities getting reservation. That is just around 6%. So they are okay with that. It is the 30%, the lion's share, that they are opposing. Back to you, Nivedna.
Right, Dipali. In fact, as you point that out, it only seems like that is the big bone of contention over here. Having said that, thank you very much for joining us this morning and helping our viewers better understand what has really triggered these protests. Only time is going to tell if that's going to be, dousing anytime soon. That
if you like this video, then like, share, and subscribe to Mirror Now.